What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another GGF video. Now recently you probably saw I did the all white setup, and this is a follow-up video to that one because that was a time-lapse build and it was hard to get an idea of all the actual hardware I used. And some of you guys commented on the video saying, hey, can I do a follow-up video and go over some of the more items I used, more specific in detail and so on. So basically in this video, I'll go over everything I used. I'll probably start with the desk first. I will then go over the chair, get that out of the way, and then I'll start from one side and just work over all of the hardware. So pretty much the desk I used is the Corsair Platform 6. Now, Corsair did sponsor all the hardware for this. That was it. They sponsored the hardware. I was already going to do a 6500X build in their case. This is relatively new. So I was going to do all that, deck it out with their blocks, full custom loop. I haven't used Corsair Watercooling for a very long time. And then I thought, hey, why don't I extend it to a full setup? Because I really do love doing a full desk setup for you guys. So Corsair was a pretty good choice because they can branch out to the Elgato range. So I've got the Stream Deck Plus, they've got the Wave arm, and then they got the mics, and they also have a heap of other gear as well. But I didn't want to go too overboard with things like lights and all that and so on. So yeah, good choice to go with Corsair in terms of having everything one brand. A few other things I had to go with that Corsair don't do are speakers. Always like to add speakers when I do a desk setup because it gives you an idea that, hey, not everyone just wants to use headphones, and it's also interesting on where you can mount speakers as well. So went with some FiO speakers, and then of course the FiO amp and DAC, which I'll cover a little bit later on. So moving back onto the desk, I recently covered the Platform 6. This is the Creator Edition. It is very expensive. It's about 1800 US. That's what it was when I reviewed it. I'm not sure if it's dropped down. So this is my second one, because you might be wondering, hey, this doesn't come in white. That's right, it only comes in black. So the one I reviewed was the stock standard black one. I have transitioned to that as my main desk. I use that 24/7, and it is a really good desk. It's got heaps of functionality, especially with this pegboard. You can mount so much gear on it. Now you might be thinking, hey, it looks pretty empty. Well, it is for this video because I wanted to keep it clean, and I just used it for the gear that I had for this video. So I can put that up there. Actually, it's best to put the feet down first so it doesn't fall forward. I just kept it clean for this video, but I'll get some shots of the desk I use, which is basically behind the camera. So behind you guys, what you can see is my main setup. And I have a heap of gear on there. I've got a bunch of monitors. I've got a heap of the pegboard hooks. I have so much stuff on it. It is jam-packed, and I don't think a lot of other desks would be able to do that, especially other ones that don't have a pegboard. Now, apart from when I reviewed that desk a few months ago, I've found a few other little tricks and so on that you can do. These little plastic cable, I don't know what they are, cable holders or just little tubs you can store things in. They just had plastic clips. They kept on falling out. So basically what I've just added through is they already had a hole in them. So basically you put those plastic clips and it just punctured through these holes on the pegboard. But once you put any amount of weight on it, now I'm not saying much, like a mouse or two, over time they would fall out. So then I just moved to putting I think it's an M5 bolt, just straight through, just go straight through one of these holes and just put a nut on the other side. And that's gonna permanently fix it because I wasn't moving these around, so I didn't really need to hot swap or quick release them moving around. Having them fixed was really good. Some other things I found out was this top rail up here, you can actually mount a monitor arm to this. Now, not so much mounting a monitor arm that it goes up super high. What I've actually done on my main setup is I've got a monitor arm that uses the pole. So it has the pole and then it has a two-stage arm. So it's got the first elbow and then the second elbow as the monitor arm. So what I did is I flipped the pole upside down. So the pole shoots down, clamps onto here, pole shoots down. Then you put the arm back on normal way from the bottom, and then you can mount a monitor perfectly above your primary screen. And then you don't need to have two mounts coming from the bottom. It's completely out of sight. And it just looks really good, really easy to move. And then when you wanna work on your desk, you can drop your main monitor down, and then the top monitor, you can just put it straight up because it has that reach, and then you can work on doing any cabling and so on. So that's a neat little trick I found out. Now, in terms of this being white, I sort of got a little bit ahead of myself. I actually saw Bitwit when he covered this desk. He did a video on that and he actually painted that white. And that was at the stage where I was painting this, and I'm like, hey, that's a really good idea. I didn't really want to steal it, but I did some of the parts in white. Now, he was pretty ballsy. He repainted the whole top. I didn't want to do that. This is a nice finish. I wanted some contrast, but kudos to him for doing that whole top in white. I'll just be afraid of it scratching, but there were a lot of other things that I did in white. Now I got some powder coated and I did some myself. Now mind you, powder coating was close to $800 because there was quite a lot. The things I did myself were areas that were either plastic, of course you can't powder coat that, and then second, areas that weren't really in like, I would say like a high traffic zone, a high mark zone, something that isn't going to be like this area here. You're going to be putting stuff on it. You're going to be putting the pegboard hooks in and out. If you did that yourself, that would scratch quite easily. All these T-rails where you can slide on the Elgato stuff, you can slide on monitor arms, all the cable management areas. I got powder coated because that will last. Powder coating is very durable. Other things I painted myself were things like these end caps, the motor legs on this Corsair desk. The motors are actually in the legs. Some other desks, they have the motor on one side and then it runs like a barrel along, but the motors are in the legs. I didn't want to pull all of that apart and get that powder coated, and I wasn't quite sure how thick the powder coating was, if it would affect the legs extending and going down. So I did that myself. The actual long feet I got powder coated because they're prone to getting knocked and so on. And then I did a lot of the cable management myself just to save on costs and so on. But yeah, basically got that done in white. So I actually increased the price on this desk quite a lot. And you might be wondering, hey, well, I did have quite a few comments when I did review this desk about, well, how does it compare against the Secret Lab? Now I do have both of them. I've been using the Secret Lab desk for, I would probably say nearly as soon as it came out. So probably over 2 years now. It is a really nice desk. I haven't actually used it as a personal desk. So I've never used it for, say, a long period of time of like gaming or editing or setting up multiple screens. I've only ever used it when you see me doing my time-lapse build videos. That is the desk I used for that. It's nice and clean. It's simple. It's super thin and it just looks nice. But in saying that, the cable management is really good. I've used their monitor arm. It works well. You might say, hey, what's better, that desk or this one? Now, it's hard to say which is better. Obviously, the Secret Lab is cheaper, more affordable. I think it's $600 cheaper for the XL, and this one is close to 18. So it's definitely cheaper, but in saying how much you can put on this one wins by miles. Now, that might not be your style. You might not like to deck out with all of the extensions up here. You might not want that, but Corsair do offer a few different ranges. I can't remember them all. This is the most expensive. They can drop one down where you don't get the pegboard, where it's just this T-rail along the back for your monitor arm. That's more affordable. And then they have a even more affordable one under that. So this is the balls out top of the line, and you can deck out so much gear on that. As some of you guys commented, why didn't I use the white Secret Lab desk? Now that one's just been announced. I actually did reach out to them because I do want to do a video on that desk as well. So if you guys stay tuned for that, because I didn't use that obviously because this is a Corsair setup. So it made sense to use the Corsair desk. Anyway, that's enough on the desk. Like even things like inside here, it does stick over time because this has been painted for months now, but every time I put this back in, it's a little bit sticky to get out. Even this little cable tray inside, this little cubby hole, I painted all of that white. It actually does look really, really good. That's pretty much it on the desk. If you want to see my full review, I'll put that in the description. I covered everything you need to know about this desk, all the extensions. I only used one extension this time, so you can see on that end, it's got that little extension that far. And then on this side, I didn't really need it. I didn't think I did, but yeah, you can buy those optional extensions. You get each one, and then you can either get the side pegboard that comes with it. And I think that's about 350 bucks. And moving on to the chair, this is also relatively new from Corsair. This is the TC500. This is the Frost. I wouldn't really say it's Frost. It might be hard to tell on video, but this here is pretty much pure white. I got this powder coating matching the case perfectly. And then the chair came out, and then I asked for the chair for the complete setup. I would say this is 100% cream. It's definitely not white like some of the Nobles or I think a Secret Lab chair that I've seen. It's going to be hard to see anything below here because of just the way the camera's set up, but I'll get some B-roll. Things like the armrests are really good. Basically, they're 4D, I believe. They go up, down, left, right, forward, back, and then they sort of oscillate left and right. Say this is a headrest or a pillow. This is magnetized. A lot of brands are doing that now. It just sticks on like that. It's got two-way lumbar support here. So instead of just going in and out, it can also go up and down. So if it's taller, shorter, you can get right in the right spot that you need. Two things I wouldn't say I don't like, but two things that I can see being a bit of an issue. First off is the way that this chair rolls, the wheels. I can just hear this. It might shake my camera a little bit, but I'll get down a little bit and you can just hear the feet just grinding on the, I've got like laminate flooring down here where I got set up. And once you start getting a little bit of dirt on these wheels, they just make a really loud noise because of the plastic on the wheels. So they're not like the sort of the smoother, the softer rubber wheels. So they are quite noisy and it doesn't sound the best. And then second, I got this white chair and I believe the fabric is nice, but the way they've done it, the texture, I'll get some real close-up shots. It just kind of looks dirty. Now, it kind of looked a little bit dirty out of the box, but that's just the way this material is. It's got all these little like dimples, and the little dimple material is different color than the actual white chair. It's like a light gray dimples all over it, and it just kind of looks naturally dirty. So if you're thinking about getting this chair, it does come in a few other colors. If you got kids or something like that, or you do make a bit of a mess or something, this color might not be right for you. But other than that, everything else was fine. Super comfy to sit in. I always find these type of chairs are comfier at the start to sit in than mesh chairs. I always find mesh chairs take a little while to adapt, but this chair was quite comfy when I sat in it at first, and everything else seemed fine. I think this retails for $4.99, which isn't too bad for what you're getting. So let me move this out of the way, and then I'll go over this side. So I think I'll cover the PC first. Probably it's going to be hard to see from here, so I'm just going to have to B-roll over all of this. Not too much to go over here. You might be thinking, well, there's a whole PC here. The main hardware is 4900K. Yes, I used Intel. With everything going on with Intel, I don't really want to know about it in the comments. That's just what I used. That was the board I had, was the BTF Tough from Asus. This case does support back connect. All the brands will work for that, and it's a nice looking board. Obviously being white, I went with that. Now I had the option for the GPU to use the Asus Tough. They do a 4070 Ti Super, I believe BTF, but it's very hard to get blocks for that, and Corsair don't do a block for that. So I ended up not going with BTF GPU, so I went with the 4090 instead. Obviously being a high-end system like this, I went sort of balls out with this setup. Going with a 4070 would have been a bit of a letdown for this, especially when everything else costs so much. So this is a 4090. Now to get this Corsair block white, it's actually not too bad. I had to pull it all apart and paint it myself. I really wish Corsair would branch out and do the GPU blocks in white. They do everything else in white. They do their pump raise combos in white. I think they do a white and silver. This crazy sort of distro they do, which is pretty cool, that comes in black or white. The CPU blocks they do with the screen, without the screen, they come in white and black. So you got options there, but their GPU blocks always come in black. I just wish they did another option in white so you can get everything ready to go. So basically put it all apart, painted the terminal, painted the backplate, re-added the aesthetics back on with vinyl. If you look at a stock GPU block from Corsair, it has the triangle design, which is what they use on their triangle design on their mesh. On the back here is a triangle design, so it only made sense to put the triangular design back on. Obviously, for anyone who is wondering how I did that, I've been using vinyl cutters for many years. Basically, I took a high-res photo of the stock block before I painted it, and then I just used triangles. I actually didn't trace around it. It was pretty simple because it was triangles. I just made up my own triangle and just put them over and then made the whole design again. Obviously, if it's a more intricate design, you may have to trace around it and that'll get your design. But being triangles, I could really just eyeball it, but I just needed the rough layout on where all the triangles went. And that was it for that. Added a little bit of silver aesthetic to match with some of the silver on the case. I swapped out the top and the side. The 6500X has little aesthetic covers you can change. This is their silver aluminum. They have different wood colors, and then they have the stock white. So I decided to change that just to give it that little bit of different aesthetic. And then another feature I did, probably notice I do a lot of rad covers in my builds. I added 2 up here, 2 up the bottom, basically just one that wraps around, but they are segmented. Now I've actually moved on to making magnetic rad covers like this. It's kind of pretty cool. I don't know how popular this would be if it would actually take off, but I just think radiator covers just really clean up a build, especially if you have fans that you don't want to see the side. Obviously these ones I didn't want to cover the fans, but in the past I've done it where I go all the way down, cover the fan. If there's nothing glowing on the side, then you can just see the glowing from the actual fan blades and the hub itself. So basically this is just aluminum. This actually came from Australia. I can't find this in the US. It's actually got little ridges. This is just left raw, and then I added a white line along the edge here. And then I just actually JB welded some magnets, 1, 2, 3. When it comes to sticking them onto radiators, it's going to be a little bit different because not all radiators are going to be the right type of metal. These ones didn't stick on. They're probably either brass. They wouldn't be aluminum because the outside could be aluminum as long as the inside isn't aluminum, which they're not. The actual channels are copper on these ones, but it actually didn't stick on. So what I had to do was get you can actually buy metal tape. It's just standard sticky metal tape. You peel up the sticky bit, you can just stick it on, and then that allowed the magnet part to stick on nicely, and that fits on there like so. And then you can just slide it to line it up. And then I mitered the corners, so now I have a perfect 90 on each of the corners, and it just looks really nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Other hardware, Corsair Dominator titanium memory, looks really nice. Then all of their water cooling gear, and then they're frosted. The thing I like with Corsair is you can pretty much get away with a whole build using Corsair gear. Now, if you're brand loyal and you like to stick with one type of brand, Corsair is probably going to be that brand for you. I know Lian Li has a lot of gear, but then they don't have the water cooling side of things. Now, Corsair has everything. Mind you, Corsair don't have the full range of water cooling to say like Bits Power, although they're basically the same OEM. So if you are using Corsair, you want to go with Corsair, and you are short a few different angles, extensions, Bits Power will be the way to go because they will match the Corsair gear pretty good. But yeah, they do have the whole water cooling, but I love their tubing. They have probably, I wouldn't say the largest variety of tubing, but they have, I would say, the most different type of tubing. They have the frosted, they have the clear, they have the white, and then they have the black matte, which I really like as well. Saves me having to spray paint to do frosted before. You can use glass frosting on tubing to get frosted, and then for black, you can just paint it matte black. So yeah, they have all the tubing, which is cool. And then Cablemod sleeve cables, only needed one. Obviously the rest is BTF. I'll get some shots on the back as well, so you can see that. And then the fans are their RX 120. They're new ones. Apparently these are better than their QX. They're cheaper, so that's why I went with these, and they're newer as well. So that's why I went with them. And that's pretty much it on this build. This video is actually gonna probably go for a very long time, so I better move on to some of the rest of the hardware. Moving on to the Stream Deck Plus. This is, I'm not sure if it's new, but I recently saw that it has the knobs. Now, when you do buy this white, when it comes in black and white, it's good that a lot of the Elgato gear gives you the option to come in black and white, especially with this setup. I went with the white. The knobs actually come standard black, but Corsair do have an accessory kit that you can buy different colored knobs. Now, I'm not sure what colors they do. I know they did the silver, but I think they do like an anodized red, blue, different colors and so on. So if you're doing like a gaming theme, or you've got some red aesthetics, it'd be really sweet to change those to like red, or you can buy multiple packs and do whatever. But obviously going with the white theme, I wanted to ditch the black ones and put on these silver ones, which just gives it that nice little touch. But I've actually never used a Stream Deck before, so overall really impressed. The software, I think, has been tweaked really well. No issues with that. The customization you can do on all the little screens, the buttons work well, all the images you can use, and the customization with this little screen, and then all of these knobs can change different aspects and what you can set. So you can set anything you want to each of these knobs, and then all the buttons as well. Moving to the peripherals, then I'll cover the monitor and then work over there. I won't cover too much on these. This will just drag the video out. Keyboard and mouse. Keyboard is the K65, the wireless. The mouse is the M75 wireless. This is done by the Corsair Custom Labs. I announced this at Computex earlier this year. I've also done a video on this recently about how you can customize all this. So this is their standard K65, standard M75, and then a standard, the mouse pad is an MM300. And then you can select this gear, go to the Custom Labs link on the website, and you can customize it to however you want. When I say however you want, it's not to a degree where you can put your own designs on. They have about 10 or 12 custom designs that they've done in-house, and this is one that I went with here. As you can see, I don't know what this pattern is, but it did kind of go with the system. I really do like the blue and aqua styles, and as you can see, it actually works pretty good, and it just gives it that little cleaner, I wouldn't say cleaner, but a bit of contrast in that aesthetic. Instead of just being all white, just gives it a more of a focal point when you're sitting down over here than if it was being all white. And then I actually decided to go with the stock white mouse. So they do a plain white mouse now. So you can also do this on the custom labs, and you can set it up and not actually go with any of the theme, but you can customize the side buttons if you want a different color as well. But I won't go over any of that because I did a dedicated video. I'll throw that in the description if you want to check out that. And then the mouse pad as well, I went with the same theme as well. Now moving on to this monitor. Now this monitor also is probably one of the stars of the show as well, because the reason this project took so long to finish was when I was at Computex, the guys at Corsair just announced this, and it finally just arrived. I would say it literally arrived, I would say 3 or 4 days once I got the video out, because everything was done. Everything was nearly filmed except for this monitor. So this is their new 34-inch. It's QD OLED, uses a Samsung panel, and it's one of the few that does 240 Hertz, 34, and it does the 3440 by 1440 is the resolution. And not many do that. I think there's an MSI and 1 gigabyte. A lot of others will do up to the 175. So that's really neat. It is a glossy panel, and then it's only a curvature of 1800. Now, I really dislike heavily aggressive curves. I know a lot of LGs do 800. For those who aren't familiar with the curvature, the lower the number, the more curved, but 1800 looking at this isn't too bad. When you're sitting in front of it, it's not much of a curve, but something like 800, like an LG, super curved, and I just don't like that. That's my personal opinion. That's my choice. A lot of you guys might like it. You might like that immersive feeling, but for me, I like it either slightly curved or nice and flat. Some other cool aspects on this monitor, I'll get some shots around the back. It is all white. Now, I wouldn't say it's all white. You've got this bezel at the front here. You might have noticed something just popped up then. I'll talk about that. I did not press a button, but the a little dialog box does pop up. I would have liked to have seen maybe this area be, I don't know how it would look, maybe the bottom be gray. It might look a bit weird being black bezel up here and then gray, but in saying it's an all white monitor, the only black is down the bottom, and this is glossy. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. When I look at that, I do get a lot of reflections off this bottom bit here. But yeah, the whole monitor is white on the back. The very fine hard bezel is white, and then the back looks really nice as well. Now moving on to the proximity sensor. Now you might have seen Corsair posting about this. I don't think I've seen anyone use proximity sensors in monitors. I don't even think they're used in any type of computer hardware I have seen. Like, we could use them for quite a lot of things. So basically, once you put your hand anywhere near this area of the monitor, which is here, I'll see how low I can actually go. Now, mind you, you can turn this off in the settings if for some reason it keeps going off. I don't know why. As soon as you put your hand about there, so you get about 1.5 inches to the bottom, it just tells you where the buttons are located. So there's only, going by this 3, it says OSD, power, and then input. So instead of having to fumble around and find out where it is, it just comes up straight away. So I can just go there. I know straight away that that's OSD, that's power, and that's input. And then another thing I can do is, let me actually turn the screen off. Let's see what happens. So it actually doesn't come on. And then when you put your hand under it, it now comes on. So I'm gonna have to look into that and see if that's a setting. I would assume that once you turn your monitor off once, you just wave under it, it will come back on, but it doesn't. If you turn your monitor off underneath, you need to turn it back on, then wave your hand under it, or so on. So I have to look in to see what it does that, but regardless, it's got that cool option where, actually I'll wait for this message to go. That's just the OLED refresh, and then it pops up. So that's cool. I've done a bit of gaming on this. You might think it's not very bright, but look, I have set this to 79 and 50. So it's not that bright. Let me see if I just go now and see what it's gonna look. I've got a screen down there. I can see, yeah, it's just gonna look overexposed, but it is much brighter than some of the other OLEDs, especially some of the older generation OLED monitors that are out there. These newer ones are much brighter for what you're going to need them for. Obviously, if you're using them for gaming, you're going to want them to be as bright as you can, like the 1000 nits or more, because obviously in the darker areas, especially FPS and so on, you're not really going to see that. I wouldn't say detail, but the shadows are going to be much darker and it's going to be harder to see enemies as well. But yeah, I can see if I can swing this around just to look at some ports. I might not be. Anyway, I'll get some shots of some ports. So I'll go around the other side so we can see the ports. It's basically got a bunch of USB, 4 USB, USB-C, headphones, and then it's got 2 HDMI and then the display port as well. And I'll put the specs up on the screen so we know exactly what versions those inputs are as well. Some other things you can't really see, the monitor arm as well that comes with the desk. I also painted all of that white, of course, to blend in with the rest of the theme. You can't really see it, but that is all white as well. And then I also went out and purchased all white cables as well. I'll spin the desk around and get some shots of B-roll of that, but all the cabling, the IEC cables, which are the power for the PC. The monitor is good now. It doesn't use a power bank, so there's actually an AC DC power supply in the monitor. It is a little bit thicker, but I've always disliked monitors that have a DC power pack. Normally they're really short. I really prefer monitors that have the power supply in them. You can run a standard IEC power cable straight to the monitor, then straight to the wall. That's it. You don't need anything else. So I purchased white ones of those, white cables, white USB cables, white audio cables, white everything, just to blend it all in to make it match perfectly. Now, moving over to this unit here, you might be wondering, what is this? So I reached out to Theo. I said I was doing this project. Would they be able to try and hook me up with the 2 speakers? And this is their DAC amp. Mainly this is going to be designed for headphones. Unfortunately, with this setup, I went with wireless headphones. Actually, I haven't spoken about these yet. These are the Virtuoso RGB wireless. They're a decent set of headphones. I think Corsair have done quite a lot in this range. They've got quite a few versions and they've got a Pro. Not all of the versions come in white, but this was the version or the model that came in white. Fortunately, being wireless, actually put them up here. You can't use them with something like this. This is more designed for high-end headphones that can utilize the ports on the front, like your 6.3, 3.5, and your XLR. It looks like it has a 4-pin XLR for that. That's pretty cool little cover that goes on there. But yeah, I reached out to the guys at Theo. Now, they didn't sponsor these for free. They're quite expensive. I think this DAC amp is $600. This is the R7. They do an R9, which is over $1,000. The SP3 speakers, they come in black and white and Bluetooth. These are $300-400. So they gave me a bit of a discount, which was pretty cool. And I said, yep, screw it. I'm really into audio gear and I just love testing out different gear. So I thought, hey, let's do it. Let's test this out and use it for this setup. Now you might be wondering, why does this have a screen on it? That's because this is designed to be more than used with just a computer. I would say using it with a computer is probably the least you could probably do with it. At the moment, it's in USB DAC mode. So that's connected to the PC. It comes up as a sound card. That is good to go. Everything comes out of the speakers. You got your options here for like your pre-out, your phones out and all of that, your line out. I got to set the line out, of course, because that's going to the speakers. When I run the headset, obviously wireless, you're gonna have to switch that over in your Windows volume settings. Now, if I hold this down, I have all of these options come up here. I've got like AirPlay, Bluetooth receiver, coax mode, Roon ready, pure music mode, and then you might be running, it's got Android mode. I'll get some B-roll on this. So this basically is running full Android. I'm not sure what Android version it is, but as you can see here, everything is there running nicely. Like I got my Ring app, it's got Chrome, it's got YouTube. I can start up YouTube. Now, one downside to this is just the way it's done. Obviously, with my daughter, Peppa Pig is the first thing that comes up. One thing you can't do now that I've switched it to Android mode is it's now dropped out of the USB DAC mode. So now I lose sound to the PC. So unfortunately, you can't sort of alt tab out, have like music playing on your PC and then fire up like the Ring app or go to Chrome. You probably wouldn't need to go to Chrome, but if you had something like a smart app for your lighting or something, you can't just simply go back out with the music still playing. You need to go back into USB DAC mode, and now you've got your sound card back on your PC. So unfortunately, It's either one or the other for all these modes. You can't have it constantly doing both. But yeah, pretty sweet little unit here. I'll get some shots on the back, all the inputs you need. And these speakers are the SP3s. They come in black, white. The only thing I'm not really too sort of keen on is the color difference between the whites with the DAC and then the speakers. The speakers are a slight cream color. They're not as white. They might not be coming off as much on camera, but they're definitely not as white as like the DAC and the desk and like the headphones and so on. These are a 3.5 inch driver, carbon fiber driver, 1 inch tweeter. Of course, it's got RGB on the bottom. I'll get some close-ups. All of these units come with different pads. The amp DAC comes with a pad here, and you can spin it around either way. Obviously, it looks pretty cool like that. I just put it on a little angle to make it easier to see. So that's like a rubber pad. The speakers also come with two different bases. This is a flat bass. Obviously, being this high, I didn't need it angled up. Obviously, when you're running monitor speakers, you want them literally coming out to your basically head level, eye level. If I use the supplied wedges that came with it, it would have been shooting them up like this, and that just wouldn't be right. Obviously, for this setup, wouldn't really matter, but you guys out there who would have seen that, I didn't really want to annoy any of those audiophiles out there with not having it positioned right. But yeah, you get different rubber pads for that. These are the flat ones, and that's pretty much it. RGB, you can control it around the back. Not that many modes. So these have Bluetooth. It'd be good if you could change the RGB modes to anything via an app or something like that. At the moment, it's just a button on the back. You can cycle through, I think, 4 or 5 modes. And then there's also the Rainbow Puke RGB as well. Now, I think the last thing to talk about is the Elgato. This is the mic arm LP. I'm assuming LP stands for low profile. I've never really liked the arms that go up and then down, and you just have to sort of pull them over your gear. I've always liked these low profile ones that can swing out, and you can even go like, if you don't use it that much, you can even go like that, and it's just out of the way, not right in your face. Then you can just bring it, you actually don't even need to loosen it, bring it down. Then when you're ready to game, Discord, whatever you want, I tend to just put the mic off to the side. Obviously, I haven't really used this setup that much, but I've got a similar setup on my main. It doesn't use this gear, but it uses similar gear. And I normally just have it off to the side. These mics normally pick up audio very well. You don't need them right in front of your face, blocking your monitor or your keyboard. You could even have it just come out under here, something like this. It is a little bit in the way of the amp DAC, but that's just how it is. The mic here is the Wave 3. Nice little unit. Used it a little bit. Whoever I was talking to in Discord said it sounded fine. I always do a bit of a test just to make sure they're not like, hey, what's going on? But they said it was fine. It sounded good, and it's got a bunch of controls you can do as well. You can also mute it, cycle through the different outputs. You can actually run your headphones through this as well, and it's got all your volume controls and adjustments for the mic, and this is USB as well. Now, if you don't want to use USB, see, I don't mind USB for the microphone because it's more of an all-in-one setup, and it just makes it easier. Elgato do offer XLR setups as well. You can run an XLR off this, and then you can also run their, I think it's their Wave XLR unit as well. It's just the one with the big knob, which I actually use that on my personal system, and it's got the capacitive mute on the back of it. And I think they've also got a new XLR setup that you can actually put it on the back of like the Stream Deck, and you can control an XLR mic through your Stream Deck as well now. You don't need to have the separate unit as well, which is pretty sweet. Now, I think that's pretty much it for all of this gear. Now, I want to talk about price on this whole system because some people are commenting, well, that's quite a lot. So I valued all of this gear, this complete setup, to be about $10,000 US. Now, for some people, that's a lot. Obviously, this unit here bloated the price out a bit, being $500–600. You've got the speakers, you've got the high-end system. Like this is 14900K, 64 gigs of RAM, 4090, couple of I think it's 2 terabyte NVMe SSDs, full decked out water cooling. You've got the full desk. Now this is probably one of the most expensive, I would say, consumer gaming desks. Like there's more expensive executive desks out there, but this would be one of the most expensive consumer gaming desks. I even factored in the powder coating cost. So for $10,000, you are getting quite a lot now. I'm not trying to promote that price. I'm not trying to promote this gear to say this is something you can buy, but I just like to do an estimate on something like this because a lot of people say on my builds, how much did it cost? They want to know how much it is, what a breakdown on all the price and so on. But overall, I think 10 grand US, not as actually much as I was thinking, especially with this brand new monitor. I think this retails for just over $1 grand. It is their latest one. It actually only comes in white. I didn't mention that it's white only. I mentioned it was white, but I didn't mention that it comes in white only. So you guys who have a black setup, this might look a little bit weird as you can see that white along there. But anyway, I want to know your feedback, anything else you would have changed. Obviously, being all the Corsair gear, I was going to go as much Corsair as I could, Corsair, Elgato, and so on, but I think it came together really nicely. But anyway, I want to thank Corsair for sending this gear out to use for this build, especially the monitor. I know they didn't have too many of these in the US, but they managed to rush and get this out for me to finish this video. Theo for giving me the good discount on the audio gear. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.